Since Apple released this revolutionary product in 2007, it's sold over 2 billion iPhones. The process involved to produce and distribute this many phones requires incredible organization that only a company like Apple can pull off. It has perfected this process to keep up with rising demand, allowing it to seamlessly produce over 200 million iPhones each year. But before it ends up in the customer's hands, the iPhone travels through hundreds of companies, each contributing a small portion to the device. The iPhone begins in Mongolia, where the rare earth minerals used to make the phone's components and casings are mined. In these deep mining sites, massive excavators pull up thousands of tons of ore each day. The ore is then brought to a crushing facility, where the large rocks are broken down into tiny pebbles containing the minerals Apple is looking for. These pebbles move along conveyor belts into giant cylinders where they are then mixed with chemicals that separate the minerals and carry them to the top, allowing the refiners to easily extract them. The minerals are then dried, bagged, and sold to Apple's partners to create the individual components within the phone. Apple then relies on dozens of suppliers to produce each intricate component based off designs created at its California headquarters. These suppliers stretch across the world, each region specializing in a certain component. Korea is home to Apple's largest display manufacturer, LG, which creates the colorful, high-quality screens that iPhones are known for. Sony, headquartered in Japan, supplies both front and rear-end cameras, often one of the biggest selling points of the phone. Taiwan's TSMC creates the majority of Apple's processors, and at one point, their entire production capacity was used to fulfill orders from Apple. Qualcomm, based in the US, produces many of the lesser-known electronic components, but all essential to the finished product. Each of these companies, as well as dozens of others not mentioned, have multiple factories of their own, each equipped with the specialized machinery needed to make the components. The amount of resources and specialization needed to create such a complex device is why Apple outsources every single component. By doing this, it can focus on designing a better quality, more efficient phone each year, as well as more effective marketing campaigns. Once the components have been manufactured, they are shipped to China where they are assembled into the finished iPhones. Two companies assemble the majority of Apple's iPhones, Foxconn and Pegatron. These companies have factories around the world, but the biggest lies in Zhengzhou, China. Over half of the world's iPhones come from this massive factory owned by Foxconn. It employs around 350,000 people who can collectively produce up to 500,000 iPhones in a single day. This is the biggest part of Apple's supply chain, and Foxconn, who has been a partner of Apple since the mid-90s, is now the company's most important supplier. There's around 400 steps to assemble an entire iPhone, and workers are usually only assigned to a single task. This may include polishing a screen, soldering a certain component, or fitting a single screw into the phone. With workers mastering these specific tasks across the factory's 94 production lines, Foxconn is able to produce the millions of iPhones Apple asks for each year. Foxconn also tests and packages the finished iPhones immediately after they are assembled. The phones are then put on trucks and brought to the nearby customs facility called the bonded zone. The bonded zone is an extremely important region that has special rules unlike the rest of China. This zone acts as foreign soil, meaning global brands like Apple don't have to pay taxes on imported components and there are less restrictions placed on exporting. All of the components in finished phones never actually cross an official country border until the product is finally sold to Apple subsidiaries. Once the phones arrive in the bonded zone, Foxconn sells them directly to Apple. Apple then resells the phones to Apple subsidiaries within China and the rest of the world. For phones sold to locations within China, they are virtually stamped as exports and then immediately restamped as imports within the bonded zone, allowing customs to collect a 17% tax. They are then loaded onto trucks and begin an 18-hour journey to Shanghai, where Apple's national distribution center is located. These trucks can hold up to 36,000 phones, which are worth an upwards of $30 million, requiring armed guards to be present at all times. For iPhones going to other parts of the world, they are transported by plane. A Boeing 747 cargo plane can carry up to 150,000 phones at a time, easily transporting them to distant Apple warehouses within a few days. Now that Apple has hundreds of thousands of completed iPhones, the next step is to sell them to customers as quick as possible. In the technology-driven business that Apple is in, it's dangerous to have that much money tied up in a single product because a competitor could suddenly announce a new innovation and devalue the iPhone. The money could also potentially be used in other parts of the business, like designing the next model or on bigger marketing campaigns. Luckily, Apple has perfected its inventory management and is able to sell its entire inventory within 10 days or less. The company's inventory could not have such a quick turnover, however, if it wasn't for its extremely efficient production process. But this seemingly perfect process still does not come without challenges. Unpredictable things can still happen on both Apple's side and the supplier side that they must both be prepared for. Since the market they are in is prone to rapid changes, the entire process must be adaptable. A last-minute design change, for example, is something assembly factories must be able to quickly adapt to. This is partly the reason why so much of the assembly is outsourced to China. Their economic infrastructure is enabled to support hundreds of factories, as well as the rapid open and closure of factories based on demand. They are also able to quickly adjust to design changes within weeks, whereas other countries would take months to implement changes to the assembly process. Apple also intentionally limits the suppliers it purchases from to simplify this entire process and to increase quality. By reducing suppliers, it encourages more competition between them to find better solutions and a higher quality product to try to win more business from Apple. It's also less that has to be managed on Apple's side within their process of creating the phones. Reducing complexity like this is the bottom line of a good supply chain, and Apple has surely perfected it. It's the only way they are able to keep up with some of the world's biggest production demands, while staying on top of their innovation demands as well.